Hello, Ropecon. It's good to see you. Everyone's got that Sunday of a con energy. Boy, that crowd is just on fire right now. That's fine. We're all here to sit. I love it. No buffer fighting for me today. So we're here to show off my beautiful little game, Star-Crossed. This is the two-player game of Forbidden Love. And we're going to use this shaky, wobbly wooden tower of little evenly sized bricks to tell a story of two people who really, really want to when they really, really shouldn't. So why don't we get to know our players before we get to know our characters? Thank you so much to our two volunteers. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Is this thing on?
You may have to lean right on into it.
Like this?
Yeah,
Okay.
pull it nice and close and tender.
Sweet. Hello, I'm Anno. This is my first time at Ropecon. I also don't know how to play this game, so this is gonna go great.
Yeah, I'm Santtu, and I'm super excited to play some Forbidden Love.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining me up here. Yeah. So in this game, like I said, you take on the role of two people who have some compelling reason to spend a lot of time together, but they also have a reason why they can't be together. And it's a given, it's an assumed that your characters are ridiculously into each other. That's just our assumption for the get-go. We don't even have to establish that. They wanna. And what we're going to do is play out a series of 8 scenes that have little titles that I'll read out to you as we go along. And in the scenes, you each take turns describing something about your character, something that they say or do. And when you do certain things, these moves, that increase the sort of closeness between your two characters, you have to pull a brick and put it on the top. Now, if your tower falls, your characters act on their feelings. And that's when we consult the epilogue chart to figure out, okay, so our characters have just acted on their feelings. We can decide in the moment what exactly that means. But this is what helps us decide, okay, but how does it all go? How does it turn out for them? And largely it's determined by how many bricks you've pulled. So if you've only pulled 4 or 5 bricks, it's not gonna be a very dramatic outcome. You know, good, bad, But if you've pulled like 20 bricks, it's going to be extremely dramatic. So it goes all the way from passion burns bright but fizzles quickly to your mind is overruled by the frantic beating of your heart. Damn the world, damn everything. From now on, you only need each other. For example. So we'll get to that when we get to the end. And then we'll kind of wrap things up and talk a little bit about how things go for your characters in the long term. But first, let's start talking about those first 2 questions. What has brought your characters together, and what is keeping them apart? In this game, I've had everything from a vampire and a werewolf to 2 married people who happen to go to the same church, an AI and the person sent in to beta test them, their programmer. It could be anything from absolutely any genre. Do either of you have any kind of initial ideas? Just start throwing them out there. There's no bad idea.
I'm sort of thinking.
Do you want to scoot your chair closer? There you go.
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking something like a classic, like adventurer and someone.
Oh, yeah? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that could work.
But I'm sort of thinking just what's what's the barrier, like why they couldn't be together. Something like I'm thinking like adventure and big bad evil guy, or
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
What class do you usually play?
but I'm not really sure about that.
Yeah, I'm actually having a bit of a hard time hearing when you speak. I
Ah,
don't know.
all right.
Maybe you can be a little closer to the.
Just bring it right
Okay.
in.
So can you repeat the last thing?
Oh, okay. I'm sort of thinking like adventure and the big bad evil guy
Okay.
thing, but do you have any other ideas or?
That could work. How are they going to spend time together? Are they just going to be fighting?
A long series of fight scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could
Nah.
also play adventures in the same party. I had a game of, I think it was the chaotic neutral thief and the lawful good paladin. They had a hard time of it.
Or like two princesses of different noble families.
Absolutely.
That's actually way more better. Like,
Yes.
Yeah, we're princess positive here.
Yes. Yes, this is good.
Okay, good. Now that's an absolutely key feature of Starcrossed is that you cannot move forward if something is like, okay, that works. No, not good enough. You have to be absolutely stoked about something, and I feel that the stoked, that quality is there. So we want to be princesses from two different noble families, and what's some reason why they could be spending a lot of time in close quarters? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I'm sort of thinking of something along the lines of some kind of negotiation or like a wedding, of course. There's
Yeah, some kind of event between nobles. What do you think?
Yeah. That could work. So I wonder what the setting for this is going to be then. Like, are we going to be sort of? Is this an event? Like, if we're from two different noble families, I suppose if we're princesses, that means we're from two different kingdoms.
what I'm sort of thinking is like anime from like I don't know. I want to say something like 80s or 90s, like very puffed up hair and the tears, when running away. There's always the scene when the tear.
Yeah,
just,
that shoujo anime realness,
Yeah.
unrealness.
Okay.
So there could be something between the families, or they could be noble families, like from different houses, but in the same city, right? So not totally different kingdoms, but
Yeah.
more of a Romeo and Juliet type thing.
Yeah.
There could be some really unusual reason for them to be together. They're both, I don't know, could be anything.
Actually, something that my partner came up with once. What if we are trying to negotiate peace between two different, I don't know, whatevers it is that we represent, and that's why we can't, because that would compromise.
and there's always the thing where there's a wedding between there's a man from one family and the woman from the another, and that's kind of like the breaching the.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I feel like we could do the negotiation idea, and eventually a scene somewhere in there, if it goes well, would be like a wedding, right? That's
Yeah.
one of the things that gets decided in the peace accord is that, okay, good, then the prince from this family and the princess from your family, some other duke or whatever will get married. Right? So I feel like we can incorporate a lot of this stuff, so we
Yeah.
don't just have a million scenes around the negotiation table.
Right.
So maybe you're meeting in the estate of a neutral family, but you're both there to negotiate peace between your two families. Does that sound kind of cool?
Yeah.
And are we doing we can figure out the exact setting later. You know, if things devolve into steampunk or it turns out we're in space, those things don't really matter as much as just knowing the core of that question of why we're here and why we can't just do it. Are we happy with where we're at?
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Okay.
let's
good.
get going.
Go. So the next thing that we have to decide is that our character sheets have some questions about who we are and why we're into each other and all that kind of stuff. They also have the lists of moves that we can make, right? So like I said, in this game, you go back and forth, sort of just taking actions, doing little descriptions. But you have slightly asymmetrical, slightly different ways of doing things. Do either of you do partnered dancing, like swing dancing or waltz or anything like that?
I'm sorry, I kind of missed it.
Do either of you do partnered dancing, like swing dance or no? That's cool.
Are you asking the character or?
Oh, no, sorry. You as people.
Oh.
The roles are called lead and follow.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have done that.
Oh, okay, great. So you know that it's not like the lead is in charge, but the lead sort of initiates certain things and the follow listens and responds and sort of reinterprets and sends back, and the lead is, right? So they have slightly different ways of doing things, but they both, equally contribute to the dance. So in this game, we have a lead and follow. And the difference is that the lead tends to do things intentionally, and the follow tends to do things unintentionally. So when they're doing things that increase that intimacy between the two characters, the lead tends to have a very clear relationship between their will and their action, right? So to intentionally touch the tower, it would look like this. Okay, pretty obvious what I was trying to do there and what I did. But if I was unintentionally touching the tower, my character might, for example, be reaching for the pen and just lightly brush the tower as I do so. Or I might be looking off in some other direction, thinking about something, and just kind of idly rest my hand against it without really thinking. Right, so those are the unintentional actions that your character might take, which is, they might reveal something unintentionally about themselves, or they might accidentally initiate that touch. Not accidentally, but unintentionally. So it might have been, they might have wanted to, they might not have wanted to, they might not know themselves whether or not they wanted to. It's just not totally clear as we describe it. As where intentional actions, we know what they were trying to do, we know what they did. So both characters do both of those things, but if you play the lead, you'll do intentional things a lot more often, and you'll very rarely do unintentional things. And if you're the follow, you'll almost always be doing unintentional things and very rarely be doing intentional things. Does that make sense? You will get the hang of it, I promise. So do either of these roles call out to you? Do either of you immediately want to be the lead or the follow?
I'll take the lead.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. There you go. So we'll go through those moves in a moment. Right now, let's start answering some questions. And we'll go down one by one. So the first one is, who am I? And you don't have to bother thinking of a name for your character necessarily. But this is where you would put the role that your character is playing. So for example, if we had come up with sorcerer and apprentice, one of you would write sorcerer and the other one would write apprentice. If we had come up with knight and squire, one of you would write knight and the other one would write squire. So just write in there, remind yourself who you are in this particular negotiation. I don't know, we both just said princess, so you can write what you like.
Yeah. So, princess. I actually want to have a name. Rose. Rose sounds good.
Do we need names?
You don't need them, but if you think of something, you can put it in there. In my experience, then if the need for the name arises, in game, people come up with one really quickly. It's only hard to come up with them cold at the beginning. But if you like Rose, you can write it.
Well, of course I'm gonna write it. So.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh my god, my handwriting is amazing. Yep.
So the next question is, what is my most attractive feature? So when your character thinks about themselves, when they considers who they are, what would they think of as their most attractive feature? What do they think about themselves is just, yeah, this I really have going on? And it could be physical, it could be about their personality, about who they are, about how they do things, how they move, how they think, how they speak. But it's from their own perspective. What about them is really choice. If your princess was writing their own dating profile, for example, what's something that they would list?
It's obviously the hair.
The hair?
Yeah.
Is it big, tresses of long golden hair, or?
I'm sort of thinking like it's like long and curly, like done off with some kind of a curling irons or something.
Oh, okay. So this isn't just like, my hair is naturally good, but like when I pay a lot of attention to this hair. Love it.
I'm going to go with sort of like personality or motivation thing. I provide for others.
Cool.
I feel that as a princess, others are dependent on me, and I want to provide for them, and that is attractive about me.
Cool. All right. Well, just make a quick note of those two things then. I love that you just wrote the hair.
Yeah.
The next question is, what about me? What are two things about me that I don't realize are attractive? And for this, I'm going to need your sheets back because you're going to be swapping them with each other. So these are two things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. You wouldn't necessarily put them in your own dating profile, but there's certain things about you that you don't even realize are absolutely irresistible, at least to the other character. So now, writing from your character's perspective, write two things that are irresistibly attractive about the other character. Audience, just give them a moment. Is everyone amused out there?
I'm sort of thinking like some kind of a mannerism or like
Yeah, just like the last one, it can be anything either physical or more abstract. It's all totally fine. And we can talk it through if you want, or you can just write it down and we'll swap back. Either one works.
So this is kind of something that we get to decide about the other
That's right.
character. Okay.
deciding for others is really, really difficult.
Trust me, they pretty much invariably love it.
Yeah.
I've run this game many times. Had anyone here heard of Starcrossed before they came to the demo? Nice. I love that some people just rolled up cold. Like, hey, what's this? That's great.
So do we say what we write here?
Just give them back when you're
Okay.
done, and then the surprise
I'm
is kind of
thinking
fun.
like, well, what I've just wrote is beautiful eyes, but I'm thinking like they could be somehow magical or going more into the Soho anime territory.
Yeah. The world is still very new and unformed at this point.
Yeah.
If you want to write something magical, go for it.
Yeah.
Just two things. Two things they got going on. And like all games, just remember that the first thing you think of is usually the best.
I'm gonna write mannerism and see where it goes.
Sure. The nice thing is, if you ever get something about your character or about the other character or something that comes up in play, you can always say no, right? There's only 2 players in this game.
And of course, we are gonna find out more about these characters when we play.
Yeah, exactly.
All right?
You done?
Yeah.
Okay, what have we got?
So apparently I have beautiful eyes and mannerism. What do you mean by that?
I meant like I'm gonna write it down and see. Like it's what's the thing? It's a thing that can make sense when we play. Like it's an impromptu or something like.
Like open-ended?
Yeah.
Okay, you have some manner of speaking and manner of moving that is apparently really good.
And
Okay.
my 2 things are imposingly good posture and beautiful voice. But those
Sorry,
are all-
imposingly good posture, and what was the other one?
beautiful voice.
Beautiful voice. Oh, we should have a little singing scene or something. Okay, are we happy? Are we ready to move forward?
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. So, our next 2 questions are, why can't I act on my feelings? And then why is that important to me? So for why can't I act on my feelings, that is super simple. We came up with that in the start. We're from warring families. But why is that important to me is something that you might spend a little bit more time with. It represents your character's actual connection to this external reason. So yeah, there's sort of a reason why it would be bad in an abstract sense, but what actually inside them is resistant to the idea of acting on their feelings? What actually makes them feel like, I don't know if it would be worth it for me. I don't know if I could do it. So that could be anything.
What I think is, I'm thinking like imposing parents or something, like they are always there. They don't give me any peace or.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah. You can not just sort of be disappointing your family in general, but maybe you have this really strong connection to your parents.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to tie this to what is my most attractive feature, which is I provide for others. If I do this, then it will compromise the safety of my people, and I will be letting them down.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah,
there's something really tied into your identity about being a princess. This is not just sort of an incidental thing, but it's really important to you to perform that role well.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking especially Rose is scared of disappointing her mother. Or.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's an excellent reason. Go for it. So why can't I act on my feelings? Well, our families are at war. That would be weird. But why is it important to me? It has to do with this relationship and with this self-concept.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's okay if you wrote them down the wrong place. That
Yep.
happens.
I'm gonna just put it there.
Okay, so let's just take a quick look down your move sheets. So over here, the lead will notice that at any time on your turn, because remember, your turns consist of doing exactly one move. So any turn, you can describe your character's movements or describe a detail in the character's environment. And those you don't have to pull from the tower. You can just have either of those 2 things be your move. You're good. Or if you want to pull from the tower, you can describe your character intentionally touching the follow, right? So again, doing something that is obviously initiated, has an obvious intention. And you can do that once per scene, and You gotta pull from the tower if you want to do it. You can also describe your character unintentionally touching the follow. You also have to pull from the tower if you want to do that, but you can only do it once per game. So it's a very, very dramatic moment when you do it. You will know when the time is right. Now, the other thing you can do once per scene, right? So up to 8 times if we do the full 8 scenes, and you need to pull from the tower, is describe your character intentionally revealing something about themselves, right? So that's another way of getting closer to someone, is opening up. So you can just state something about yourself. It will be obvious what you are doing and why. And as long as you pull from the tower, you can do that once every scene. You can also unintentionally reveal something about yourself. So you can let something slip, whether it's information or an emotion or, you know, a little more of the shoulder than you were intending, whatever it is. You can reveal something unintentionally. You still have to pull from the tower. You can only do it once per game. So again, kind of a dramatic moment for the lead. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the follow, you will probably have already noticed that you have kind of the opposite. So just like our lead, on any turn, you can have your move be describing your character's movements or describing a detail in the environment, right? And be as descriptive as you want to be when it comes to doing this kind of thing. You can talk about the Sunday morning lights streaming in through the through the open sky, etc. Or if you want to pull from the tower, you can either describe your character unintentionally touching the lead, right? So some little slip or trip or brush by or whatever. And you have to pull from the tower. You can also describe yourself unintentionally revealing something, something personal. And again, that can be information or emotion or physical or whatever it is. Again, you have to pull from the tower, and you can do it once per scene. Or once per game, you can intentionally do either of those things. And again, those are your really kind of big sort of, not an encounter power, but I guess like a daily, you know? So those have some real dramatic weight to them. You still have to pull from the tower. You can do them once per game, and those are your intentional moves. So are we starting to see how the characters operate and how the structure of a scene works? So at the beginning of a scene, I'll read the title, and then the lead will go first, right? So I'll say the title, the two of you will describe together, okay, well, where is this scene? Where might it be? We're at the convention center, we're on the stage, whatever. And once we decide where the scene takes place, then you'll do a move. And you could do any of the moves on your list. And then it'll be the follow's turn. You can do any of the moves on your list. And we'll go back and forth, just doing this. The lead will do a move, the follow will do a move, back and forth, until the follow decides this scene is over. And you can decide that at any time, at the beginning of your turn or at the end of it. So before or after you do your move, you can say, and I'm going to call it there. Let's just end right there. So you have a lot of power, and you have a little bit of pressure. So that's being the follow. And theoretically, even though we're pulling lots of bricks from this slightly shaky tower, we could get to the end of scene 8. We could get to scene 8, you could call an end to it, and the tower is still standing. And if that happens, then the characters never act on their feelings. It's just a little tragic ending for you. Or maybe the best possible ending in a very tragic circumstance. It really depends. So do we understand?
I think
No,
so.
but let's go anyway.
Yeah, it's a game, right? We always learn by doing. One last thing for you. If you want your character to speak, now obviously the two of you are going to be talking the entire time. And I'm going to be talking a lot because I talk a lot. But if you want your character to give a piece of dialogue on your turn, on top of the move that you're doing, right? You always have to do a move. But if you want to add some dialogue, sprinkle some dialogue on top of that move, you have to be touching the tower the entire time that your character is speaking. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of leaning, I regret to inform you. We may figure out whose arms are longer and move things back and forth. So pull from the tower to do those particular moves, and if your move contains dialogue, you have to be touching the tower. It's a little intimidating. You'll get used to it, but it'll get harder and harder and harder as the game goes on, so there's that too. So that's everything. We are actually ready to start our first scene. And it's called an introduction. So are your characters being introduced to each other? Are they being introduced to something else or someone else? Is there some kind of introduction that they are witnessing? It could be absolutely everything. What do you two think?
I'm just sort of thinking where the scene is set. I'm sort of thinking a ballroom or like a meeting room or...
Sure, yeah. Some grand hallway. What do you think?
Yes. Is this the first time that we meet each other?
I don't know.
Maybe you know each other
I
and
think
you've
we
met.
have seen each other in passing, but never really talked or...
This is the sort of formal introduction.
Yeah, that sounds good. Are we...
All right, I try to keep that in mind.
Are you thinking we're like meeting each other in some place alone, or are we, is there other people? Is there an audience?
What sounds better to you?
I kind of want there to be an audience.
Yeah.
Like I want us to maybe we're sort of addressing the court or sort of opening this sort of this whole peace negotiation thing, trying to get them
Like a ceremony?
sort of, yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, cool. Do we want to hit the ground running? Are we good to go?
And what's
Let's
the
go.
worst that could happen?
All right, lead. Do any of the moves on your sheet.
What I'm sort of thinking is that there's this like large hall or something, and it's like really nice, this sunshine going in through the window, shining on a group of people, perhaps looking at the certain direction where our characters are, like on a display, or like in this situation, like raised above the rest of the crowd.
Cool.
That was the describe
The detail, yeah.
Yes.
So then it's my turn. Okay. I am I enter the whatever stage there is where we're going to be doing this whole thing. And I look all over the room. I look at all the people who are standing here. I smile at some of them who I know. And I stand on the stage, ready to just take them all in.
I actually like that one. Sorry, what was the last thing that you said? I wanna build on that.
Sorry?
What was the last thing that you said? I wanna build on that.
Yeah, I stand on the sort of stage where we are, and I'm just kind of beaming at all the people who are standing in the audience.
I think Rose is there, like coming behind you, and sort of when she's going past you, she touches your shoulder, like quick and in passing, and that was the intentionally touching to follow. So I got pulled from the tower, right?
That's right, yeah. If you want to take her hand, you gotta pull. Oh, okay, so. If you want, you don't have to take the first brick that you touch. You can totally feel around and find one that's a little friendlier. You gotta put it back on top. Now, I gotta stop you, and I gotta admit that I did something wrong. We're supposed to start before the first scene with 3 pulls from each of you to prime the tower.
Ah,
I totally forgot that part. My bad.
shall we do it
As
now?
penance, I will do 2 of the pulls. So remember that you can poke around and feel around for a good break. You are not tied to any particular break. You're not stuck. But you always have to use only one hand. You can't be doing this. Pick one hand and stick with it. All right? Okay, now you have to do 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, I was gonna totally file the tower on the first pull, and you stopped me.
And make sure you don't have your hand resting on the table when you're either pulling or doing dialogue. Just take some of the energy out of it. One more. You'll get used to it.
You can do it.
Two from you.
It's very difficult.
There we go. Now we have a proper tower. Now we have something with a little bit of tension to it. Now we have a little bit of stakes. So we had just in the third move of our first scene, Follow, it is your turn. Your co-princess here has just taken your hand very gracefully and ceremonially. How do you respond?
I look at you and I smile. And then I turn back to the audience and I address them. And now I'm not sure, I have to be touching the tower if I want to speak.
That's
but then I
right.
have to bring this with me somehow, this
Oh
microphone.
yeah, let's
This is
see.
a little-
Do you want to pop that out and hold it?
How much does it move? What's your character's name?
A rose.
Rose? Okay. Dear friends, we are here today with Princess Rose to end this long time of grief and suffering for both of our communities. Please give her a welcome, as do I, and I start clapping.
Gosh. I gotta be real close to this mic. I'm sort of thinking this is the moment where like the crowd joins in the clapping and the oh crap! I'm not really sure how to continue from that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think there's this like this moment where the camera just swoops around the audience and shows the rose kind of just trying to get a good glance from your eyes and yeah, I think that's a good introduction. Like.
Well, it's up to the follow when the scene ends.
Oh right.
But that can be your contribution of detail. I think that's
Yeah.
a lovely environmental detail.
Yeah.
I wait for the audience to settle down, and I think this is just a very short thing. I don't think we're going to be speaking to them much more. I think we have just sort of introduced ourselves to the
Yeah.
audience, and
Like I don't think like we have to go from beat to beat. There can be like we can just say there will be some speeches on behalf of these.
yeah, and as the sort of noise from the audience dies down and people start to turn their attention elsewhere, I get kind of a little bit, I don't really know what to do because I was focusing on them this whole time, and now I kind of become aware that you're standing next to me, and I sort of take a step back, and I unintentionally brush your elbow with mine.
Does that require pull? Oh yeah.
Yeah, it does.
I was just wondering, does it require pull and yeah.
It's almost like your character's really nervous or something. The tower respects confidence.
And honestly, I think that can be the end of this scene.
Great. Awesome. So we just reached the end of our first scene. We took a couple of polls. We've established a sort of nervous, fluttery sweetness between the two of you. As we begin our first scene, I should let you know that the tower may fall. You may intentionally push it over if you ever feel like there's a good moment when your character should just drop it and act on their feelings. You may not want that, and remember, if we've only done a certain number of polls, then it's going to mean a very kind of not that dramatic outcome for your characters. But sometimes it's just so right, you know. And also, I noticed that you filled in a little star when you pulled it from the tower. That's awesome. Make sure you fill in a star. I think, did you pull once or twice? I think it was just once.
Yeah, it was once.
Great. That will help us add up our total score at the end when we're figuring out the epilogue. Awesome. I think we had 2 pulls from you.
Did we?
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it was 2.
What was the other one? So does that just mean that I...
Leave it. Our next scene. This is called A Little Embarrassment. So where do you think the two of you might be next? Where do you think a little embarrassment might take place?
I think it's a little later, like people have started mingling with each other and kind of chatting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we are, as you say, maybe we are kind of mingling with the people. And yeah, I don't know. Do we need to figure this out? Maybe we just...
Yeah, I think we're
go.
in the middle of a party is
Yeah, yeah.
good. Yeah, that's the right thing to do. There's little teas and cakes being served.
Yeah.
All right, lead. Take away your first move.
I think Rose is trying to find someone in the party, and she's kind of looking around, and I think she has found something that she could follow, and she goes to it, and kind of touches the shoulder and doesn't realize it's you. So that's an intentional touch.
All right. One hand at a time. Cool. Mark it off on your sheet. So, Princess.
So I think as you do that, I was speaking with my sister in the crowd.
That was the unintentional touch, because that was by accident. So it's a different move, but it requires a bull. So
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm speaking to my sister. Okay, did you think, what did you think? Was that okay? Did it go well? I feel I should have, I need to go talk to Princess Rose. I should have done it earlier, but it just doesn't. And then I think as I am speaking about you, you appear, and I kind of spin around and stop talking. And as I spin around, I kind of bump into you a little bit, I think.
Did your character have a name yet?
Tessa.
Oh, Tessa. I wasn't. And.
It's hard to talk and do that at the same time.
Yeah, this setup is really difficult, but jeez.
Well, you're gonna act on your feelings right now. I mean, do you just blurt it out, or smooch her, or what happens? What do you do?
I think what happens is that the Rose Rose grabs your Tessa's hand and just pulls her away from the crowd and starts leading her somewhere.
So do we see? What do we see? Just like the camera just sort of pull away as the two of you run off.
Yeah.
Cheeks flushed. Do you have
And the
anything
Rose
to
is really blushing.
Got that anime blush going.
Yeah.
So just a question about the game. So I'm not sure. Does the scene end here?
So what we do now is we add up our total attraction score, which I think is 4, 5.
I suppose.
We'll accept the last one. So you were in the middle of. Were you? No, you were in the middle of dialogue.
I was just touching the tower.
So you have 2.
Yeah.
And you have 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 4. So that means that on our epilogue chart, we are between 1 and 10 of our combined total attraction score. And so that means that our prompt for the epilogue that the two of you are going to tell together is, it wasn't the right time. You reveal too much too soon, and the connection is irrevocably broken. So let's co-narrate the same way we would set up a scene. Let's just talk together about what that looks like after you've taken her hand and pulled her aside into some quiet side hall.
Or maybe the thing is that they cannot find any quiet place.
And what do you think? I mean, how does your character react? How does Tessa react?
Yeah, I follow you. And as we are sort of walking or trying to get through the crowd, I'm like shielding my face a little bit from anyone that I might recognize, because I feel like I shouldn't be doing this.
Maybe Tessa stops Rose.
What do you think?
She doesn't quite react that quickly. I think we get out of the sort of crowd, and she also wants to just get out from the middle of all of these people who are watching her every move. But yeah, I think as soon as we get sort of a little bit like in the hallway or out from the center of all attention, she does stop and she does let go of your hand and sort of like fix like her hair a little bit, and it's like, Princess Rose, I'm so sorry.
Rose just goes like, it's fine.
Oh.
And starts a little bit fidgeting with her fingers unintentionally, and
I am watching your hands as you do that. And I keep fixing my hair.
she perhaps takes a strand of your hair and puts it behind your ear.
Oh. You're breaking my heart, Rose.
And I say, we should get back this. They need us to.
It's fine. And she takes your hand, and this just wasn't. And she just kind of trails off and kind of covers her mouth. And
yeah, I watch you go and just. And then I spin around and I rush back into the room with all the people.
Oh, I love that. I love the last shot being of you sort of alone in this hallway as you've scurried off. Oh, you too. I'm sorry, but I love unhappy endings. Oh my gosh. Well, a very unsurprisingly short game of Star-Crossed RPG. Yours at home will be much longer when you're not in front of a crowd of strangers at Ropecon 25. Thank you so much, the two of you, for coming up here and playing with me. That was very brave, and I'm totally delighted. Please give a very big hand to our two wonderful participants. That was Star-Crossed RPG, the two-player game of Forbidden Love. It's coming out very, very soon, by the end of this year, by Bully Pulpit Games. If you want to know more, you can go to bullypulpitgames.com. You can follow us on Twitter. You can go to my website, helloalexroberts.com, because I love talking about this game. So if you ever want to get in touch with me, I will happily blather on about it for hours. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your con.